Once upon a time, in a kingdom wrapped in deep winter, a gentle queen sat by her window, sewing by the light of the pale gray sky. Snowflakes fell softly outside, covering the world in a thick, quiet blanket of white. As she stitched, her needle slipped and pricked her finger. 3 bright drops of red blood fell onto the snow on the dark wooden sill. The queen paused and looked at the colors together: white snow, red blood, black wood. A warm wish rose in her heart. Softly, she whispered, "I wish for a child with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as this ebony wood." It was a simple wish, but she spoke it with all her heart. Not long after, her wish came true. The queen gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Her tiny face was perfect, her skin soft and pale as fresh snow, her lips rosy and red, and her hair dark and shining, black as midnight. The king smiled with tears in his eyes. "The name is already written in the stars," he said. "We shall call her Snow White." The baby cooed softly, and the whole kingdom rejoiced. But happiness, like winter snow, can be delicate. Soon after Snow White's birth, the gentle queen fell ill, and despite the king's every effort, she passed away. The palace, once filled with music and laughter, grew quiet and heavy with sadness. The king loved his daughter, but he also needed a queen to rule beside him, and time moved on. After a year, he married again. The new queen was beautiful, so beautiful that people whispered about her beauty in the halls. But behind her lovely face, her heart was hard and cold. She was vain and proud, and could not stand the idea that anyone, anywhere, might be more beautiful than she was. In her private chamber, she kept a magical mirror, tall and shining, framed with gold leaves and tiny silver stars. Every morning, she stood in front of it and asked, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?"
And the mirror always replied, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." Those words were like sweet honey to her. They made her smile, made her believe that her beauty was the most important thing in the world. Meanwhile, Snow White grew. She wandered the palace gardens, talking to birds and feeding the deer. Servants smiled when she passed. She thanked everyone kindly, from the cook in the kitchen to the stable boy in the yard. Her eyes sparkled with kindness, and her laughter was like the soft ringing of a silver bell. By the time she was only 7 years old, Snow White's beauty and goodness had already begun to shine brighter than the queen's cold loveliness. One morning, the queen stood before her mirror, as always. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" But this time, the mirror's voice changed. "You are fair, O queen, it's true, but Snow White is fairer than you." The words struck her like a storm. Her fingers tightened on the edge of the mirror. Her face twisted. Envy, sharp and dark, took root in her heart. "Snow White," she hissed. "That child." From that day on, she watched Snow White with cold eyes. When Snow White laughed, the queen's heart burned. When people smiled at Snow White, the queen's jealousy grew stronger. Days turned into weeks, and her envy grew like a shadow that would not fade. At last, she could bear it no longer. She called for the royal huntsman, a strong man who had served the king for many years. His boots echoed on the stone floor as he entered. "You summoned me, Your Majesty?" he asked. The queen's voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp as knives. "Take Snow White into the forest," she ordered. "Go deep, where the trees are thick and no path returns. There you will end her life. Bring me her heart as proof." The huntsman's eyes widened. "Your Majesty, do not question me," she snapped, "or you will join her." He bowed, heart heavy with dread. That afternoon, he went to Snow White, who was playing in the garden, weaving a little crown of daisies and tiny blue flowers. "Snow White," he said gently, "the queen has given us a task. We must go into the forest to gather rare herbs and wildflowers for her."
Snow White smiled and stood. "I love the forest. The birds will be happy to see us." She took his hand trustingly, and together they walked into the deep woods. The farther they went, the darker and quieter it became. The trees grew tall and close together, their branches like arms blocking out the sky. The wind whispered through the leaves, and shadows moved where no one walked. At last, they reached a place where the path disappeared, and the forest floor was thick with moss and fallen leaves. The huntsman stopped. Snow White turned to him with innocent eyes. "Is this where the rare flowers grow?" she asked softly. The huntsman could not answer at first. His hands trembled. He remembered the queen's command, and he remembered Snow White's gentle smile. Tears burned in his eyes. "Dear child," he said at last, his voice breaking, "forgive me. I cannot do what the queen has ordered. She wants your life, but I will not take it." Snow White stared at him, her heart tightening with fear. "She wants to kill me?" she whispered. "Yes," he said. "You must run. Run far into the forest. Don't look back. Never return to the castle. If you do, she will find you." For a moment, Snow White's eyes filled with tears. She thought of her father, of the gardens, of the only home she had ever known. Then she took a deep breath and nodded bravely. "Thank you," she said. "I will run. I will live." "Go now," he urged. "Quickly!" Snow White turned and fled. Her shoes kicked up leaves and her skirt brushed against ferns and low branches. Every sound seemed louder than before. The hoot of an owl, the creak of a tree, the rustle of tiny animals. At last, exhausted and shaking, she slowed to a walk and whispered, "Oh, where am I? What will I do?" The forest seemed endless. Tall trees towered over her like giants. Dark shapes moved in the distance. Though when she looked closely, they were only tree trunks and shadows. Still, not everything in the forest was frightening. A curious little bird hopped along a branch nearby and chirped gently at her. A rabbit peeked out from behind a rock, staring with wide brown eyes. It was as if the forest itself was listening to her sadness. Snow White wiped her tears. "I will not give up," she told herself softly. "I must keep walking." She walked and walked until the sky turned golden, then pink, then purple. At last, as the first stars began to appear, she saw something in the distance. A tiny house, tucked in a small clearing, with smoke curling gently from its chimney. She hurried closer. The house was small, with a low door and short windows. Inside, everything was neat and tiny. 7 small chairs, 7 little plates, 7 spoons, 7 cups, and in a corner, 7 little beds lined up in a row. Snow White's stomach rumbled. She had eaten nothing since morning. She looked around and whispered, "Perhaps the owners will not mind if I take just a little." She took a small bite of bread from one plate, a sip of water from one cup, a taste from each dish, just enough to feel a bit stronger. Then she tried the beds. The first bed was a bit too hard, the second too soft, the third too lumpy, but at last she found one that was just right for her. Her eyes grew heavy, and before she knew it, she had fallen fast asleep. Later that night, the owners of the house returned. They were 7 dwarfs, miners who worked deep in the mountains. They pushed open the door and stepped inside. "Someone's been sitting in my chair," said one. "Someone drank from my cup," said another. "Someone has eaten from my plate," said a third. They looked around in surprise, and then one of them pointed toward the beds. "Look!" There, in the last little bed, lay Snow White, sleeping peacefully, her dark hair spread over the tiny pillow. They author around, eyes wide. "She's so beautiful," whispered one. "She looks like a princess," said another. They spoke softly so as not to wake her. They deciding not to disturb her, and quietly shared the other beds for the night, 2 dwarfs to a bed. In the morning, as the first light of day shone through the windows, Snow White slowly opened her eyes. For a moment, she thought she was dreaming. 7 small faces were looking up at her. "Oh!" she gasped, sitting up. "Who are you?" "We are the 7 dwarfs," said the one with the longest beard. "With years. Who are you? And how did you find our house?" Snow White sat on the little bed and told them everything about the queen, the huntsman, the deep forest, and how she had found their home. The dwarfs listened quietly, their faces growing serious. "You may stay with us if you like," one of them said kindly. "If you keep our home tidy and questioning and sew and couch, this can be your home too. We will go to the mountains each day," another added, "and in return, we will protect you." Snow White felt a soft warmth spread through her heart. "Thank you," she said gratefully. "I will do my best." From that day on, Snow White lived with the 7 dwarfs. In the morning, she waved them off as they went to the mountains with their little pickaxes and lanterns. Then she cleaned the cottage, baked bread, stirred soup in the pot, and sang as she worked. Birds often came to the windowsill to listen, and sometimes, when she stepped outside, animals gathered near her feet as if they understood every word of her songs. In the evenings, when the dwarfs returned, the house glowed with candlelight. The table was set, and warm food waited for them. They told her stories of glittering gemstones and Nibur tunnels, and she told them stories of life at the palace. Snow White began to comfort advice again, almost as if she had a new, small family. But far away in the palace, the queen had not church. Days passed, and once again she stood before her magical mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" The mirror's answer came, clear and calm. "You are fair, O Queen. It's true. But Snow White, beyond the hills, with 7 dwarfs, is fairer still." The queen's hands clenched into fists. "So, she lives," she whispered. "Then I will use my own magic." She went down into her secret chamber beneath the castle. There were bottles of potions, jars of strange powders, and shelves of old spell books. For hours she stirred and mixed, muttering words no one else could understand. Finally, she disguised herself as an old peddler woman. Her back bent, her hair turned gray and tangled, and her voice cracked like dry leaves. Carrying a basket of colorful laces and ribbons, she made her way over mountains and through valleys until at last she reached the dwarf's cottage. "Lovely laces for sale," she called. "Beautiful ribbons." Snow White heard the call and looked out the window. She remembered the dwarf's warning, but the old woman looked so gentle and tired. "Good day, dear child," the woman said. "Won't you let me show you my laces? Look how pretty they are." Snow White opened the door just a little. "Oh, how lovely," she said. "But I don't have any money to buy them." No need, croaked the woman. "Let me give you one as a gift. Such a pretty girl should wear a pretty lace." She stepped inside and reached for Snow White's dress. "Let me tie it for you, nice and snug." Snow White stood still, trusting her. But as the lace was pulled tighter and tighter, Snow White could no longer breathe. Bidden it. "No need to open the door at all," the woman replied. "Just look, see how it shines? Surely a princess like you deserves such a beautiful comb." Snow White looked at the shiny comb, glittering like a jewel in the light. "It is beautiful," she murmured. "Let me place it in your hair through the window," the woman offered. "Just for a moment. It will cost you nothing." Snow White hesitated, then leaned closer. The woman reached through the open window and gently placed the comb in Snow White's hair. The moment it touched her scalp, the poison did its work. Snow White fell still, her eyes closing. By the time the dwarfs came home, she lay motionless once more. Their hearts sank. "Not again," they cried. They looked carefully and soon found the comb. The instant they pulled it from her hair, Snow White's chest rose with breath. She opened her eyes, confused and weak. "That woman was your stepmother again," the dwarf said. "She will not stop. You moments ever accept anything from anyone, no matter how kind they seem." Snow White felt a chill go through her. "I will be careful," she promised. "Truly, I will." But the queen was not finished. In her secret chamber, she prepared her final and most dangerous plan, a biblical apple. One side was pure and safe. The other side held a deadly poison. When Sachu had finished, it looked perfect, red and shiny, with little droplets of dew sparkling on its skin. She disguised herself one last time, this time as a simple farmer woman with a basket of apples. She climbed the mountain paths once more and reached the dwarf's cottage. "Delicious apples, fresh from the orchard," she called. Snow White looked out the window and shook her head. "I cannot let anyone in, and I cannot take anything," she said. "I must not." The woman smiled gently. "Do you think safe?" She opened the window a little more, took the red half, and bit into it. The poison was swift. Before the apple had even slipped from her fingers, Snow White fell to the floor. When the dwarfs came home, they found her lying still and pale, but this time, nothing helped. They checked her laces, loose. They searched her hair, no comb. They looked for any hidden magic. They tried to wake her, calling her name, holding her hand, but she did not move. Tears ran down their faces.
"She looks like she's only sleeping,"
one dwarf whispered. "But she does not breathe," said another. "We cannot bear to put her in the cold ground." So they built a beautiful glass coffin so her face would always be visible, and carried it to a quiet place on a hill. Flowers bloomed all around it. They placed her inside, her hands folded on her chest, as if she lay dreaming. On the coffin, in golden letters, they wrote, "Snow White, daughter of a king." Day after day, the dwarfs watched over her. Birds came to sit on the branches above. The forest animals visited silently, as if in mourning for their gentle friend. Far away, the queen once more stood before her mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" And the mirror finally replied, "You, my queen, are the fairest of them all." Satisfied at last, the queen smiled her cold smile, never knowing that her victory would soon fade. Sometime later, a young prince from a neighboring kingdom rode through the forest with his servants. The day was quiet, the air soft and sweet. As they traveled along the path, the prince saw something shining on a hill. "What is that?" he asked. They climbed up, and there he saw the glass coffin with the beautiful girl lying inside, her face peaceful and perfect, as if she slept. He read the golden letters, and his heart ached. "Snow White," he murmured, "daughter of a king." Though she seemed lifeless, something about her touched his heart deeply. She looked gentle, kind, and full of unspoken stories. He turned to the dwarfs, who stood nearby with sad eyes. "Who is she?" he asked softly. They told him the story of Snow White's goodness, of the jealous queen, of the huntsman, the cottage, the trick. Her behind. At first, the dwarfs refused. They had watched over Snow White for so long that the idea of letting her go made their hearts ache. but they could see the truth in his eyes, the kindness and respect in his voice. At last, they nodded. "Treat her gently," they said. "She is very dear to us." The prince's servants lifted the coffin and began to carry it down the hill. But as they walked, one of them stumbled over a hidden tree root. The coffin jostled, and inside, the piece of poisoned apple lodged in Snow White's throat was shaken free. She coughed, took a breath, and her eyes fluttered open. Soft light filled her vision. She saw trees above, birds flying, and a face leaning over her, kind, surprised, and 5 of hope. Where am I?" she whispered. "You are safe," the prince said gently. "You are with friends. I am the one who asked to take you to my castle. Will you come with me?" Snow White remembered the forest, the dwarfs, the queen, the apple, and for this new face, full of warmth, she sat up slowly. "Yes," she said, "if my friends agree, I will go with you." The queen's heart filled with dread. Still, driven by pride, she went to the wedding to see this new queen with her own eyes. When she arrived and saw Snow White alive, happy, and loved, the queen's wickedness finally led to her own end, and she never troubled Snow White or the kingdom again. Snow White, the prince, and the dwarfs remained true friends. The dwarfs visited the castle often and were welcomed as honored guests. Snow White never forgot their kindness, nor the lessons she had learned about trust, bravery, and the strength of a gentle heart. And so, Snow White and the prince ruled their kingdom with kindness and joy, and they all lived happily ever after.